I am very much an n=1 kind of guy, where n is the ideal number of bikes. But here are 10 surprising benefits of having only one bike. Your ride or die. Speaking of having only one bike, the one bike that is so good I choose to have it and only it is made by today's sponsor, Wabi Cycles. Stick around until the end of the video to learn more about them. Having only one bike actually comes with a lot of practical benefits. The most obvious one is that it takes up less space. Not everybody has a ton of space for a ton of bikes. And the stuff that you own, even if you get a good deal on it, even if you can jump through a lot of hoops in your mind and justify that bike purchase, there's still hidden costs of owning all of that stuff. It takes up space, and the space that we live in isn't free unless you actually own your house and it's not owned by a bank or a landlord. The average bike takes up about 9 square feet. Where I am here in Sacramento, where rent is about $2.24 a square foot, that's like $242 a year. Or maybe you live somewhere in a bigger city that's more expensive. Well, that's how much it'll cost you every single year. I'm somebody that doesn't enjoy cramming as many things into unused space, because for me, having empty space is actually serving a purpose and allowing me to have my mind be clear. And that is extremely hard to put a price on, no matter how good of a deal that I can get on a $350 56 centimeter Panasonic. Oh my gosh, that's really tempting, but I'm not doing it. Having one bike also allows you to spend more time on that bike, meaning it's always in immaculate condition. My bike is almost always clean. It's always filled up on air. It has its lights. It has its computer. It's always ready to go. It's always ready for the camera, and it always gives me a good time whenever I ride it because I take such good care of it. Bikes take a lot of time to maintain them yourself, and if you don't want to maintain them yourself, they still take a lot of time driving them to and from the bike shop, or a lot of money having somebody else work on them. On top of that, it's easier to get out and ride your bike. Your choice is extremely streamlined. You have one choice. I want to ride my bike. This is it. You take it out, you go. There's no weighing different options of what type of route you're going to do that day and finding the ideal one for you. All right, boring marketing time, because I studied marketing and it's super interesting. So there's two types of consumer. There's satisficers, which are the people that say, yeah, this is good enough, I'm gonna stick with that. And then there's maximizers, which are the people that tend to overanalyze every single little detail of their decisions to try to find the best and perfect decision. And the surprising thing is that satisficers overall are much happier and more satisfied consumers than people that try to find the perfect thing. There's a famous marketing study called the Jam Study, where researchers set up a table 2 times in a supermarket and they were selling jams. One time they were selling 20 different jams. The other time they set up only about like 5 jams. And the really surprising thing is that the table that had only 5 jams on it sold way more jams, and also the consumers reported that they were way happier with the purchase compared to when they set up a table that had 20 different jams. It's really cool because it's like, we think that the more choices we have, the better choices we're able to make. But when we have too many choices, it actually makes us anxious and second guess ourselves when we make a choice, wondering if there was a better choice that was available to us. And that's the same thing that happens when we have so many bikes available to us. When you go out and ride your bike, you might second guess yourself. Well, maybe my gravel bike would have been better for this ride. Or it's like, oh, I'm feeling a little sluggish on the pavement. Maybe I should have taken the roadie out or the track bike out. But when you have one bike, all of that completely goes out the window. You just get completely sucked into the moment and enjoy the one bike you have, because there are no other options. Your option that you made is good enough. That's why you only have one bike in the first place, because it's the best one and your favorite one to ride. And when you're only riding one bike, you appreciate riding more deeply. I know completely the ins and outs of my one bike. Whenever I throw a leg over it, it feels like home. It's just comforting to me. I know exactly how it climbs, how it sprints, how it maintains speed, how it flexes with each pedal stroke according to how much power I'm putting down, how it handles on pavement versus gravel versus mud versus snow, rather than wasting mental space wondering if I have the perfect bike or the ideal bike for the job. It just makes me a better rider because I have to make do with what I have with my one bike. If I can't do the ride, it's sink or swim, that's it. Having one bike also encourages you to more deeply appreciate the type of cycling that your bike excels at. My one bike has allowed me to appreciate daily riding at a level that I feel like I wouldn't have if I had more bikes and more options available to me. 99% of the riding I do is just around town. And while that may sound boring, it's actually really enjoyable. I've been able to find routes that I had no idea existed in my very own backyard, well, front yard if you want to be technical. And even still, I am finding new routes and new things to discover. Having one bike is for sure limited, but that limitation allows you to appreciate what your bike can do at a deeper level. Practicing N=1 when it comes to bikes also has a lot of financial benefits and affords you a lot of mental clarity. When you're a cyclist, it's super easy to get sucked into the N+1 rat race and drool over every month your friends get a new bike at the group ride. And it could feel in our lizard brains that we are obligated to keep up with them to enjoy cycling as much as they do. But that's just stupid. Because buying more bikes, when you buy a bike, you enjoy it for maybe a month and then it makes you happy, but then you just get used to it. It just becomes part of your staple and becomes part of your everyday life. It's not exciting anymore, which is the reason why most of us buy bikes in the first place. And if that's what you're chasing, you're just going to be stuck on this hedonic treadmill where you keep chasing after the next new exciting bike, but aren't satisfied in the end and don't end up enjoying the bikes that you have in the process because you're always on the hunt for something new, something shiny, or something more expensive, something with more fixie points. Not only is that exhausting, if you get to that level of N+1ery, bikes are very expensive. For me, it's just much more satisfying to be completely done with my bike. I look at my bike, there's nothing that I want to change on it. Everything is perfect the way it is, and all that's left to do is appreciate it and ride it. Isn't the point of having bikes to ride them and to go places and to do things and to make memories and friends, instead of buying shiny new components and scouring the internet every time you're on the toilet for the hottest cycling deals in your area? Why not spend that money on a couple plane tickets, take some trips to some places that are really sick for cycling, take your bike there, and that'll be way more fulfilling and satisfying than spending $500 on a top tube protector just because it's out of production in NJS. If you want to learn how to fly with your bike, go click this up here. And this isn't rocket science, but like having less stuff means that you have more attention for the stuff that you have. And when you have less stuff, it also forces you to stop and think when you're buying something else. It forces you to be more intentional with your purchases and forces you to be more intentional about what you let into your life. You appreciate what you already have a lot more. So if you have one bike and you want to buy another bike, that's completely doubling the amount of bikes that you have. It forces you to pay attention and ask yourself, okay, well, why do I want this bike? Because I only have one bike, I'm willing to spend a lot more money on my one bike to make it as perfect as possible. Okay, just address the elephant in the room. My bike is probably worth around $4,000, maybe $4,500. I haven't done the math and I won't. I'm able to feel good about those purchases that I made on my bike because it's something that'll last forever, or just about forever, until somebody hits me with their car because they were on their phone. It encourages me to ride it. When I look at my bike, I just want to ride it. And that makes my life better. It allowed me to stop wanting more. And just appreciate it for what it is already, because if I wanted more, honestly, that would just be greedy. So build up or buy a bike that inspires you to ride, because nothing makes you faster than riding more, and nothing gives you more fixie points than being faster. I'll leave you with a quote from Fight Club modified for bikes and N+1, or N=1. You are not your job. You're not how much money you have in the bank. You are not the bike you ride. You are not the contents of your garage. You are not your effing cycling shorts. If you want more inspiration about paring down your things and living a more intentional life and just riding your bike more, and maybe even paring down so much that you only have one bike, I highly recommend the book Goodbye Things by Fumio Sasaki. That book is linked in the description. You know another cycling thing you should know? This message from our sponsor, Wabi Cycles. Wabi's bikes are so good that my Wabi Special is the only bike that I have to own. I don't need N+1 bikes when all I do is ride my favorite bike that I've ever thrown a leg over. It is the most fun bike that I've ever ridden. So it's the only bike that I own. They are that good. And part of what makes them that good is that Wabi constructs all of their frame sets out of top tier tubing, Reynolds 725 or Columbus Spirit. If you're looking to get to their most popular model, their Wabi Classic, you can pre-order one right now and expect to get it in late May. And if you're wondering about the specials with the chrome lugs, those are slated to be out late May, tentatively. Be sure to check out Wabi Cycles, linked in the description. I stopped using my phone for most things, and you could look forward to that video in a couple weeks. But Fixie famous shoutouts to Julian Corona, Brandon Black, Brent David, Mario Perez for helping to make these fixed gear videos possible through your support on Patreon. And remember that life is short, but don't make it shorter, so be sure to ride your bike every day to be reasonably dangerous.